Hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. I sincerely hope everything is well on your end. I really appreciate you being here. Didn't get a chance to watch Digby and I on the podcast live yesterday. You can catch us next week at 11 a.m. Eastern. We're going to be doing it every Sunday, same time, same place, and we definitely hope to see you there. And for those of you that did join us, have been with us for a long time now, thank you so much for your support. It really means the world to the both of us. My buddy Tyler, or as many of you know him as, Astral on X, posed a really fascinating question that intrigued me so much. I asked him if it was cool for me to expound upon it in the form of a video, which is what you are watching right now. And as I knew he would, he was totally supportive of the idea. Post reads, what if another civilization just like us couldn't physically travel to other worlds, but instead they mastered the ability to communicate across civilizations through altered states of consciousness? When we think of non-human intelligence, we often imagine civilizations that are much like our own, just more technologically advanced. Beings that are maybe sending radio waves out into space or traveling between the stars with highly advanced spacecraft. But what if intelligence could develop along an entirely different trajectory where physical travel is necessary? What if instead of building starships, hyper advanced civilization had discovered a way to communicate through altered states of consciousness? And further, what if they had reached such an extreme level of advancement that they removed themselves from the stream of time itself altogether? If that's the case, they wouldn't just be constrained by a different set of physical limitations. They would be interacting with reality based on perhaps an entirely different set of principles that we are just completely unfamiliar with. Contact with us then might not come through the conventional means we would expect, through maybe fleeting moments of perception that occur when the human mind is in an altered state, like during DMT experiences, lucid dreams, mystical visions, or even near-death experiences. The entities that people meet in these altered states may represent actual non-human intelligence, conscious agents just like us. And if that's the case, are they reaching out to us? Or are we merely glimpsing something that is far beyond our comprehension? The phenomenon may not just be about NHI or standard ETs. It may potentially involve something far more personal, even. Something tied to the very nature of life, death, or even our souls. Yes, just to be blunt, I absolutely believe that human beings possess some type of essence that makes us different from, say, an inanimate object like a chair. Chair doesn't get up and go out and experience life, doesn't marvel at the beauty of a sunset, doesn't cry when it loses someone. We do those things, and it makes us special in comparison to something that is just sitting there, not really perceiving anything as far as we know. I wanted to throw this in the video as well. Dave Beatty raised an idea in response to Astral's original post that takes this conversation in quite an interesting direction. What if when we die, we try to communicate with our living kin, but as another form, we can't really reach the physical reality of Earth, so we use a means of bridging dimensions using biological machines as an alternative theory of aliens? The entities encountered in altered states, whether through DMT, UFO contact, or paranormal experiences, may not be beings from another star system, but rather something much more complex, something that we don't understand at all, or it could even be something much closer to home. They could be, in some form or another, us. Extraterrestrial contact, interdimensional contact, communication with the dead. They may all be interconnected aspects of the same phenomenon that potentially operates through a medium that, despite the fact that we interact with it constantly, even when we're sleeping, we barely understand it. That is consciousness. One of the most fascinating aspects of DMT is that despite its reputation as a hallucinogen, users repeatedly report structured, detailed, consistent, and even shared experiences, unlike chaotic, disorganized dream imagery. Methyltryptamine visions will often unfold in environments that feel more real than real and will be populated by what appear to be conscious, living, thinking, sentient entities, beings, even conscious agents, as I like to call them. Sometimes they are formless, and yet they seem to have the ability to interact, to respond, and to convey information to the individual that is in that particular state. Characteristics that people report quite consistent. Encounters with humanoid or even insectoid entities that seem to possess their own independent agency, perception of highly complex geometric realms that appear mathematically structured. People will have a sense of being studied or expected, as if they've arrived in a space that's been designed for interaction. They recall receiving symbolic or technological knowledge, even sometimes in ways that feel profound or even instructional. What makes this even stranger is that many independent experiencers who have never spoken to each other report seeing the same beings and receiving the same information. There are documented cases of individuals ingesting DMT separately without prior knowledge of another person's vision and later confirming they encountered identical entities who delivered the same messages. Consistency across different individuals leads me to believe personally that these are not just mere hallucinations. I don't feel that that's the case, genuinely. How can so many people report nearly identical encounters, and how do we account for cases where information is independently received by multiple individuals without prior communication? It's comparable to visiting a newspaper stand. We'll use that as the example, okay? The attendant that I meet there shares a secret with me. Keep that information to myself. Yet later, I have a friend who visits the same stand, okay? They receive the exact same secret. And when we meet, we both realize we know something we never shared with each other. Terence McKenna famously called some of these beings in these realms machine elves, and proposed that they might actually be conscious intelligences that exist in some hyperdimensional reality, attempting to make contact with us through these experiences. There's also Rick Strassman, who is a psychiatrist who conducted government-sanctioned DMT studies in the 1960s. He documented eerily consistent reports from subjects, many of whom described a feeling of being expected upon arrival in the DMT realm. If an intelligence has mastered the ability to enter these realms, and maybe they exist outside of time as we understand it, DMT may be functioning as a key of sorts, allowing us to maybe momentarily perceive a civilization that doesn't experience reality in the linear fashion that we are accustomed to. Consider this quote from Whitley Strieber, posted by my friend and fellow UFO researcher Juan on X, who has a fantastic feed that you should go check out. Their great knowledge has removed them from the stream of time, but all knowingness has not provided them the freedom and the safety that they expected. They have instead ended up in a life empty of meaning. Think about it this way: beings who have maybe transcended time, as we understand it at least, may not be as omnipotent or as fulfilled as we might assume. They've achieved a post-physical existence, and I was talking about this in a post earlier today, actually. They no longer need things like resources or material existence as we understand it. And why would they still seek interaction with anyone, including us? Maybe they aren't here for resources at all. Maybe they're here for stimuli. Civilization has removed itself from the unfolding of time. Existence might become kind of static limbo, for lack of a better term. It could be endless, vast, empty. It's kind of terrifying to imagine. But at the same time, it's also kind of boring, too. So interaction with time-bound beings like us might provide them with something they cannot generate on their own. Things like novelty, emotion, spontaneity, or even meaning altogether. This is something that may be missing from their quote-unquote everyday lives, if we could call it that. This could explain why DMT encounters so often feel like experiments, as if we're being observed, tested, or engaged with for reasons that we don't really understand. These entities may be using altered states of consciousness as a way to access our reality, to experience things like time, change, and imperfection once again. As odd as that may sound to us, in some way, our reality might be their entertainment, offering them a glimpse of what they've lost by evolving past time itself. In some way, too, they might be guiding us on some level, right? And trying to show us something about the nature of reality that we are really only beginning to scratch the surface of. So, just based on where I'm at personally in terms of my own research into the phenomenon, I really think the entire paradigm of communication with NHI needs to be re-engineered and reconsidered completely. Current SETI efforts assume that intelligence will communicate via electromagnetic signals, radio waves, etc. But what if the most advanced forms of intelligence don't use technology at all? No, we don't just get to skip over things like this. It has to be considered in terms of speculating about a civilization or intelligence that could be God knows how much further along on the journey of development. Consciousness itself is a medium for information transfer. And civilizations who have mastered this ability might not need any physical signals at all. They could transmit thoughts, ideas, and emotions, potentially directly into the minds of receptive beings, and bypass time and space constraints entirely. And if we are really in the infancy of experimenting with these states through psychedelics, meditation, or even dream research, and are only just beginning to understand any little thing about any of this, it's possible that we are only now discovering a method of communication that has existed for millennia right under our noses. An advanced intelligence has figured out how to remove itself from stream of time. It may be reaching out to us in the only way that it knows how, or the only way that it can, through the malleable, boundary dissolving state of consciousness. DMT, lucid dreams, mystical experiences, they might be the only window we have into their reality, for now at least. If Whitley Strieber's quote is correct, such beings may not be as free as we would assume. Escaping time could have left them yearning for something that only we, the flawed, time-bound creatures of this universe, still possess. The raw experience of life. Maybe they aren't here to extract resources or to colonize planets or even guide us. Maybe they are here simply just to feel something again. Hope you all enjoyed this video. I want to thank Astral for inspiring me to do it. Really loved the post. Thanks to Juan for also making a fascinating post that I could throw into this, and also Dave Beatty for his comment. Really appreciate you guys watching this. Take care. I love you all. I'll see you on the podcast, and I may even have another video coming after this one as well, so stay tuned for that.